A huge trial kicking off on Monday in Idaho. Of course, the Lori Vallow trial will begin. She's accused of murdering her two children. She's also the subject of a very popular Netflix documentary. Joining us now to discuss this is someone who has followed this case from the very beginning, Nate Eaton with East Idaho News. And Nate, thanks so much for being with us. All right, for our viewers who have not been following this as closely as you have, what are we to expect on Monday? Get us up to speed, if you will.
Well, the trial that has been taken, it's taken, 3.5 years almost for this to finally happen. Lori Vallow is charged with killing, as you mentioned, her two children, but she's also charged in Arizona for killing her fourth husband, or at least conspiring to kill him. And then she's charged with killing the conspiracy of murder for her new husband's former wife. So there's a lot of bodies here that we're talking about. There's a lot of charges here, a lot of law enforcement agencies here, multiple states. It's taken a long time. Finally, Lori Vallow will go before a jury and answer to these charges, and there will be multiple witnesses. There will be a lot of evidence. This trial is expected to last 6 to 8, possibly 10 weeks.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about, though, essentially jury selection. Has that already concluded, or will that happen right away on Monday, or should we expect opening statements on Monday as well?
So this week, potential jurors have been dropping by questionnaires to the Ada County Courthouse in Boise, and the defense and the prosecution and the judge have been going through these questionnaires. On Monday, that's when the actual jury selection will happen based off of these pool of surveys, these pool of questionnaires. That's expected to last 3 to 5 days, and then we'll get into opening arguments right after Easter around April 10th, possibly a few days before. So we won't hear actual arguments, actual evidence, actual witnesses for about another week or so.
Wow. And we do know that she has been now spared the death penalty. That's off the table. Was that due to the, I guess, errors of the prosecution? Did they make kind of a fatal error, if you will? What's going on there? Why is that now off the table?
Well, the defense would probably say that they made a fatal error, or a very serious error, you could say. What happened was a bunch of evidence, a large portion of evidence, was not turned over to the defense until just days ago, or a week or so ago. And the defense argued to the judge that, listen, we don't have time to go through all of this evidence, and our mitigation specialist, the person who is responsible for trying to save Lori Vallow's life, that's this person's duty, wrote an affidavit to the judge and said, I do not have time to adequately go through all of this evidence. Now, the prosecution has said that we've been turning over evidence all along. There's just so much in this case. And this was an oversight that we just found. So I think the judge, rather than saying, well, let's just throw all that evidence out, he said, all right, well, we'll take the death penalty off the table. That way, the mitigation specialist, we don't need to worry about anymore. It's not as serious of a punishment as death is, and that things can proceed. So yeah, because the death penalty is off the table, the trial will be shorter, and the stakes are not as high.
Okay, and I was also curious as well. We know that her alleged accomplice in all of this, her lover, her romantic partner, Chad Daybell, he will have his own trial. That was settled some time ago. They're not going to have a joint trial. Will any representatives from the Daybell camp be in the courtroom, do you think?
I think Chad's attorney will be there, and maybe not every day, but you would think he'd be dumb to not go, or someone from his team, because this is a preview in a way of their trial.
Right.
They're gonna get to know what the prosecution's arguments are. Things will be a little different. They face slightly different charges, but the bulk of it, I imagine, will be similar to his. But we have heard that, according to Lori's attorneys, Chad's children do not plan to go. And right now we're looking at basically probably Chad's attorney. Chad will not be able to go. He remains in Eastern Idaho in jail. So he won't be able to see his new wife, but I guess I shouldn't say new because it's been several years now. But yeah, I would expect his attorney to be present.
Okay, what about Lori Vallow herself? Does she have any supporters at this juncture in time? Will there be anyone sitting in the courtroom on her behalf, or only just detractors and opponents?
That's a good question. We do know that her attorney has said their witness list is basically nobody. Lori could take the stand, but he's publicly said they had a lot of witnesses if this was a death penalty case for when it came to the penalty part of it. But because that's off the table, they may call no witnesses. Well, you would think that a supporter would be a witness or someone that could add to the case. But as of now, there's none or very, very little. Her family might show up. We haven't heard any indication. I have not heard that, though. They're in Arizona, so it's a long way to travel, a long way to sit through a trial. And they probably, maybe don't want to be there. But as far as I know, I don't think that there's anybody that still has her back and is supporting her. I think there are a lot of people that want to come and just see her, just, sit in the trial and see how she acts and see what the judge does.
Yeah. In your, I guess, entire time covering this so closely, have you ever had an extended conversation with Lori Vallow in any capacity?
No, well, 3 minutes, but she
Okay.
didn't talk much to me. We walked down in Hawaii and we chatted, and I asked a bunch of questions and she answered one.
Okay.
And then when she returned to Rexburg, Idaho on a plane, I tried to communicate with her and she did not respond. So no, but I'd love to. If you can arrange that, I'd love to.
Well, speaking of the media's role in all of this, public access, from what I understand, is going to be quite limited to the trial, or at least delayed, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the unfortunate thing about this is that no cameras are allowed in the courtroom, and people want to see this, especially because it spans over so many states. We've got Arizona, Utah, Hawaii, Idaho, and you have to, if you want to watch, you have to go. Now, we will get audio recordings at the end of the day, and of course, we'll share those publicly, or at least we hope the end of the day. We could get them the next day or a few days later. But there will be no live audio streaming. There will be no live video feed. In this day and age, a lot of people just expect live cameras. We've seen it on court TV. We've seen it elsewhere. But this judge who originally did allow cameras, but then Lori's attorneys asked for no cameras, and he granted that request, and he has been pretty firm on that decision.
Okay, just lastly, Nate, you talk about media sensations surrounding these major crime trials. This one, to me personally, seems very, very niche. I'm kind of wondering whether it will rise to the level, say, of what we saw last month with the Murdaugh murder trial in South Carolina. Do you think it's going to have that cachet? Are we going to see a frenzy of media attention surrounding this?
I think if cameras were in the courtroom, you would. I mean, there is a lot of, crazy stuff here. We're talking about zombies and spirits and multiple husbands and multiple wives and dead bodies. There's enough here that people would watch, but without cameras, I don't know if there will be that interest. I still think there's plenty of people that have never heard of the case, even though there was a Netflix special and even though there's been datelines and everything. But I don't know. I'll be interested to see that as well. I think not having cameras in there, though, will probably not make it as big as Murdaugh or some of the other, larger cases we've seen.
Yeah. And Nate, just lastly, I know this is kind of a weird question to ask you, kind of what you're looking forward to in a murder trial, but you've been so invested in this. You have to have some questions on your mind about what to expect for Monday, right?
Well, the big things that I want to answer, we still don't know the cause of death for JJ and Tylee. We know how their bodies were found in a horrible condition. We don't know how they died, though. So those are the big questions I have. We know how Tammy has died based on what her parent or her children said publicly by asphyxiation, but who asphyxiated her? That's what I want to know. I'm also told by sources close to the case that we only know about 50% of what's out there. So there will be some bombshells, I think, in this case, some really shocking turn of events. We've known from the beginning that the evidence, there's so much evidence here. That's why it's going to take multiple weeks, 2 months. So yeah, I am looking forward to hearing it. I'm also looking forward to a conclusion, and many residents here in Idaho are. This has taken 3.5 years. They're ready for things to move on. Of course, we still have Chad's trial down the line, but at least with Lori, there might be some sort of finality here, within the next by summertime.
Okay. Nate Eaton with East Idaho News. Thank you so much for offering your reporting, your time. I'm sure we'll be speaking again throughout the duration of this trial. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, hope you enjoyed that conversation there. Obviously, that trial begins Monday there in Idaho. We'll be relying on the reporting of Fox 10 Phoenix reporter Justin Lum, who's traveling up there to cover this. Also, Nate Eaton, he's going to join us throughout as well as we break down this trial. Like Nate said there, it's expected to last 6 to 8 to 10 weeks. So this is going to be quite a long trial.